From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, here's a look at the latest headlines. Secretary of State Antony Blinken returns to the Middle East for continued ceasefire talks in Gaza with Egypt and Israel. This is Secretary Blinken's 8th visit to the region since the war broke out in October of last year. Australian police probed the vandalization of the U.S. consulate in Sydney. The building was attacked by a person carrying a sledgehammer who then spray-painted anti-Israel graffiti. 9 windows and the main entrance door of the consulate were damaged. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi begins his 3rd consecutive term after being sworn in yesterday. On his first day, Prime Minister Modi authorizes the release of funds that will benefit over 90 million farmers. North Korea sends 300 balloons carrying trash into South Korea. This after Seoul warned Pyongyang against violating its airspace. North Korea has now dispatched over 1,000 balloons of trash to its southern neighbor. And Nokia makes the first ever immersive video call that uses 3-dimensional sound. The telecom group CEO says the new technology will enhance the current calling experience, which currently uses only one channel of sound transmission, making the audio seem flat and less detailed. We begin in the Middle East, where Israeli Minister Benny Gantz has resigned from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's war cabinet. Now, this comes a month after Gantz threatened to leave the emergency government if Netanyahu failed to present a post-war plan for the Gaza Strip.
Regrettably, Netanyahu is preventing us from advancing toward true victory, which is the justification for the ongoing and painful cost. That is why we are leaving the emergency government today, with a heavy heart but with full confidence.
Now, before the resignation, Netanyahu told Gantz that this was not the time to abandon the battlefront. But Gantz, who is a retired Army general, former defense minister, and former deputy prime minister, has accused Netanyahu of mismanaging the war effort and putting his own political survival over Israel's security needs.
Fatal strategic decisions are met with rejection and postponement due to political considerations. Honestly, going into government was a simple decision. Leaving when our kidnapped are in the Hamas tunnels when the residents of the north are far from their homes, thousands of fighters on the front, is a complex and agonizing decision.
Now, Gantz's party was the only centrist power in Netanyahu's far-right coalition. However, his departure does not pose an immediate threat to Netanyahu, who still controls a majority coalition in parliament. The Israeli prime minister will, in fact, become more heavily reliant on far-right allies who want to press ahead with the war and oppose the latest ceasefire proposal backed by the United States. Now, Gantz delayed his resignation speech after 4 Israeli hostages were rescued from Gaza on Saturday in Israel's largest operation to date during the 8 months of war. Gaza health officials said at least 274 Palestinians were killed and around 700 were injured in the assault. Meanwhile, putting more pressure on Netanyahu, Gantz has called for early elections in Israel. Gantz also encouraged the third member of Netanyahu's war cabinet, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, to do the right thing and resign from the government. Now, Gallant has previously said he would resign from the cabinet if Israel chose to reoccupy Gaza. Now, with one out of the three war cabinet ministers resigning, the Israeli prime minister becomes more isolated than ever as calls grow for a change in leadership. And moving to Europe, where the far right has made a comeback in the European Parliament elections. Far-right parties are predicted to win a record number of seats, delivering major blows to the ruling governments of Belgium, France, and Germany. Now, Belgium's prime minister has resigned after his party, in fact, suffered a crushing loss in both the national and European parliamentary elections. Meanwhile, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is set to solidify her power after her party won the most votes in the country.
Quindi voglio dire grazie.
So, I want to say thank you to the majority of Italians who have continued to choose Brothers of Italy and the center-right. I want to say that I am proud of the result of Brothers of Italy, extraordinarily proud of the result of Brothers of Italy, but I am also very proud of the result of Forza Italia, of the result of the Liga. I am proud that the majority governing this nation has managed to grow together.
Now, joining Italy in voting for far-right parties are Germany, Spain, and France. In fact, French President Emmanuel Macron suffered a heavy defeat to his far-right opponent, Marine Le Pen. Le Pen, which won around 32% of the vote, which was more than double of what President Macron secured. And in a shocking move, President Macron dissolved his parliament and called for snap elections after the European Parliament's results were declared.
After having proceeded with the consultations as provided in the Article 12 of our Constitution, I decided to give back to you the choice for the future of our Parliament with a vote. And so, I am dissolving tonight our National Assembly.
Now, the first round of elections for the French National Assembly will be held on the 30th of June, with the second round on the 7th of July. Meanwhile, far-right leader Le Pen welcomed President Macron's call for new parliamentary elections.
The French have spoken, and this historic election shows that when the people vote, the people win. By giving more than 32% to the National Rally list, the French have just given us the highest score, all parties combined, in 40 years. It is a real emotion to see this beautiful popular force rising up throughout the country.
And like French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz also suffered a stinging blow in the European election. Now, much has changed in Europe since the last parliamentary election was held back in 2019. Britain left the bloc in 2020, and Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, putting much of the continent on a war footing to prevent the war from spilling over. And additionally, Europe has witnessed an influx of millions of refugees from the Middle East, South Asia, and Africa, with some nations even declaring an emergency over the migration epidemic. As nationalist sentiment grows in Europe, will France recommit to President Macron, or will he be routed by the far right? That question will be certainly answered in due time, but what is known for certain is change is afoot in Europe. And here in the United States, former President Donald Trump says he will never ban the Chinese-owned social media app TikTok if elected president of the United States. This comes just days after he joined TikTok and amassed a following of nearly 6 million users. His remark came while speaking about his larger strategy to reach young voters ahead of the November 5th election. And in a major U-turn, this is Donald Trump's firmest comment in support of TikTok, which he once actually tried to ban during his term in office. The 77-year-old Republican issued an executive order to ban the platform back in 2020, citing national security concerns. However, he's had a major turnabout in his position since leaving the White House. Now in April, Donald Trump slammed President Joe Biden for approving a law that requires TikTok parent company ByteDance to either sell the app by next January or face complete removal in the United States. Now, Donald Trump's change of heart came after he met businessman Jeffrey Yass, who has a 15% stake in ByteDance and reportedly donated heavily to the Republicans' campaign. The former president is also using his TikTok presence to woo young voters who are the primary demographic active on the app. Now, TikTok claims to have more than 170 million users in the United States, which is more than half of the country's population. And now MAGA supporters are calling Donald Trump TikTok's favorite president after he surpassed President Biden in number of followers on the social media platform. The convicted felon debuted on the app just last week, and his first and only video has been viewed more than 120 million times. Meanwhile, President Biden has just over 370,000 followers with almost 180 videos. President Biden's campaign has vowed to continue using TikTok to reach young voters while the app is still not banned in the United States. And now, as Donald Trump's popularity continues to dip post-conviction, it remains to be seen if a presence on TikTok will actually stop his slide in the polls. And moving to Brazil, Elon Musk's Starlink has made internet accessible to some of the most remote areas, from the Sahara Desert to tiny Pacific islands. The technology has now penetrated deep into the Amazon jungle, which is home to several indigenous tribes. As these tribes get acquainted with the benefits of the internet, they've also been exposed to its darker side, like pornography. Our next report tells you how one such Amazonian tribe is dealing with the disruptive influence of the internet.
Brazil's Marubo tribe is a 2,000-member community which lives in one of the remotest areas of the world. For hundreds of years, the tribe lived in complete isolation in the dense Amazon jungles, its way of life unknown to the rest of the world. But today, the community is well closer to the world. It's all thanks to Elon Musk's Starlink. With its low-orbit satellites, it has made internet accessible to unthinkable locations, including the Amazon rainforest. Some members of the Marubo tribe endeavored outside the forest and saw the potential in technology. Hoping the internet would help empower the tribal people to tell their own stories, 9 months ago, the internet reached the tribe with its benefits. Though it didn't come without its challenges, as it quickly revealed its darker side. The scenes in the Marubo tribe are no longer different. People are glued to their screens, addicted to social media, scrolling endlessly, playing games, and worse, watching pornography. Tribal youth are now sharing all kinds of explicit videos, and tribal seniors are afraid of the actions of the youth, because kissing and public displays of affection are not customs of the tribe. Young adults are also becoming less and less physically active and are drifting away from their culture and traditions. It's not just the youth. All age groups are having trouble putting their phones down. The village leaders worry that if the trend goes on, they will have to restrict usage of the internet. The initial joy of the new technology has now passed. Though many did taste the practical benefits of the internet like video and emergency calls, the flip side of the coin has sparked a debate. Should internet technology meet such tribes who for years have stayed away from outer influence and have kept their culture protected? One can't ignore the prospects of progress that internet brings to these areas. However, balancing the boon and bane could be tough. And much like many modern and developed parts of the world, the tribe leaders now find themselves at a crossroads, trying to navigate through the dilemma whether to keep the Wi-Fi on or disconnect it altogether.
And speaking of the internet, in tech news, Americans are increasingly ditching their smartphones for so-called dumb phones. These are low-tech devices offering a minimalist alternative that prioritizes real-life interactions over endless scrolling. From parents seeking safer options for their kids to teens looking to break free from digital addiction, dumb phones seem like a smart choice for many. Here's our final report for those looking for a digital detox.
Smartphones have practically become the extension of a human hand. No hand, small or big, is seen without a phone in hand. But there's also a growing sentiment of smartphones outsmarting humans. The number of hours sometimes a person spends on a phone is insane. Buried deep in smartphone settings lies a dirty little secret, a tally of how much time you spend glued to the screen each day. This uncomfortable realization often hits hard, making many question if their handy device has morphed into a full-blown obsession. And now adults and teens are fed up. Some are trading in their digital sophistication for a bit of blissful ignorance. Many are now swapping their smartphones for simpler, dumber models. It's called the dumb phone revolution, and it's here to save us all. Save us from the clutches of endless scrolling and social media-induced anxiety. Many teenagers say that social media sites have taken over their lives and they can't sign out anymore. Studies from Harvard show that people are not alone in this digital despair. Social media networking lights up the same brain regions as addictive substances. Dumb phones are simple devices. They are so basic that they look like supercomputers in today's age. People say that their screen time has come down from hours to minutes. These phones are stripped down to basics, texts, calls, and a few essential tools, making life simple and peaceful. Not just teens, but their parents are also joining the dumb phone trend. Many parents are now giving up their smartphones for flip phones. The results? They're getting to spend time with their families and also finding a sense of digital balance. Parents also plan to give their children these basic phones when they start, before handing over the world to them. They want to make sure their children are prepared. In North America, dumb phones are flying off the shelves. Retailers say customers now come in to look for these low-tech devices. However, it's easier said than done. The technological ecosystem doesn't fully support a community with basic phones. Schools often require specific apps that can only be found in app stores. Peer pressure can make sticking to dumb phones quite challenging. The transition isn't always smooth. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the incessant pings and notifications of modern smartphones, perhaps it's time to embrace the dumb phone. Whether you're a teen, a parent, or just someone yearning for a bit of digital peace, these low-tech wonders might be the solution you've been looking for. Welcome to the era of digital detox, one dumb phone at a time.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden. How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on First Post America.